Hey everybody, Lesson 3 recap for MSOM 601, coming to you this week from Fredericksburg, Texas, which is in the hill country of central Texas, about an hour and a half southwest of Austin. It's a beautiful day here. It's September and temperature in the low 70s, which for central Texas is actually pretty good for September. You'll notice I'm in my Seahawk gear today, big football game today. I'm going to try and go out and find a place to see if I can find the Seahawks playing anywhere in Central Texas today on television. If something happens, by the way, that you don't hear from me in a Lesson 4 recap or I go dark this week, please contact Charleston Southern and let them know to send out a search party for me. The chances are I may have run into some rabid Cowboy fans or something here, so please do me that favor this week. Well, this week you had three things that you had to do. You had 2 discussion boards and you had a case study. The first discussion board I really changed up at the last minute, and I did that for a reason. I find sometimes that new students in graduate level work are a little reticent to begin using the CSU online library, and what I wanted to do hopefully was to show you not only how easy it is to use it, but how beneficial it can be as well. I find that students sometimes just like to do a quick Google search and do whatever they can do to come up. That's not really graduate level work when you do it that way. You have to find those peer-reviewed articles that are found in the CSU online library. So if you did it, my hope is that you typed in problem solving or whatever you use as your search term, and you found thousands of articles to choose from. And so once you get in and once you get used to using it, it'll be a great resource for you. And so that was the purpose of discussion 3.1, not only to get you to use the CSU online library, but to find some peer-reviewed articles on problem solving. And early looks at some of the material back has proven that you have some pretty good stuff there. The second discussion board question was really about a problem-solving technique, and it was called the is-not model. Now, for those of you who went on and looked for some additional material on that, bully for you, because there's a lot of great stuff out there. In the middle of the week, I actually posted some more good resources on is, not is in the announcements section of the course. And so the one thing I'd encourage you to do, take a look at that, because in one of those sources that I gave you, there's actually an Excel template that an organization put together that if you decide to use the is not technique in problem solving, you'll be able to utilize that template and not have to create one on your own. So take a look at those. I put that in the announcements earlier in the week. So I hope you found that to be beneficial. Sometimes the is not technique is much more suitable for complex problem solving, but I thought it would be something that particularly those of you who have engineering backgrounds might be able to use as well, because it's really tied into Six Sigma and a few other things that are out there. And then finally, the case study this week was really the first one where I asked you to apply the red model to something. And let me start you off with a quote. And Albert Einstein, pretty smart dude, right? Made a statement one time that he said, if I had 1 hour to solve a particular problem, I would spend 55 minutes asking the right questions at the start to narrow down what the problem is, and then 5 minutes at the end to develop the solutions for it. And so the key thing that you'll find in this case study regarding dentists and the manufacturing of the dental equipment and those things really is that they didn't spend the time up front. They did not spend the time up front to define the problem. And in the red model, the way that they do that is you have to recognize the assumptions. And so they did not go out of their way to recognize the assumptions. They made a lot of assumptions, but they didn't go to the customer. They didn't talk to them in particular. They just recognized what they thought the issues were without spending the necessary time on the front end to do that. And you see what happens when that process is followed that way. So if you recognize the assumptions incorrectly, then by the time you go to evaluate arguments, you're actually evaluating arguments on an assumption that's incorrect. And so you waste your time in the second stage of evaluating arguments. And then in the third stage of drawing conclusions, you're drawing conclusions based upon evaluations that are incorrect as well. And so the purpose of that entire case study was to make sure that you focused on the front end of that, to make sure that you look at recognizing the assumptions, and the assumptions are really the basis of what the problem is in particular. So I hope that you had a chance to take a look at that in detail. So that was Lesson 3. Lesson 4 is coming up. Got some cool stuff to do in Lesson 4, not the least of which is Part 2 of your course project. So if you have any questions this week about that course project and some of the things that you need to be focusing on and that you need to be doing, make sure you give me a call, because I'd much prefer that you do that early on. Everybody have a great week, and go Seahawks, and again, hope and pray that you hear from me sometime this week. If not, send that search party out.